he would become very aggressive if he didn't get his way and didn't get it immediately. He was hospitalized 11 times in 2 years. DCFS threatened us. They told us that if we picked him up from the hospital, they were going to charge us with child endangerment for failure to protect our other kids. And if we left him there, they were going to charge us with neglect. And that was the breaking point. And that's when everything changed.
Let's pick her up. How's your daddy?
Toni Hoy and her husband Jim doubled their number of kids when they adopted Daniel and his older brother in 1997. Almost immediately, they noticed strange behaviors like hoarding food, a fear of being alone, and inconsolable crying.
We had been told the worst of it was severe neglect. We just thought once they weren't neglected any longer, they would be fine, and that's what all the social workers told us. In a good family, they were going to be just fine.
Raising the boys was difficult, but they began to flourish with the stability the Hoy family provided. When the Great Recession hit, Toni had to give up homeschooling the children to work at a health insurance company. Daniel started attending public school. The noise and crowds were a trigger, and he became violent.
You know, I always felt very bad afterwards, and it was kind of hard to understand why I was getting so upset over some of the smallest things. It was very stressful going through those moments, just feeling like that lack of control.
He had his first psychiatric hospitalization when he was 10 years old, when he was in 5th grade, and he hadn't been in school more than a month. We didn't know that he had PTSD. We didn't know that he had reactive attachment disorder. We didn't know what the problem was. But he really was a danger to himself and others at 10 years old. And took him to the psychiatric hospital. Scariest thing in my life, the first time. Nobody wants to leave your child there.
Mental health care professionals said that Daniel needed residential treatment, 24/7 care, and therapies that would cost $150,000 a year. The Hoys didn't have that kind of money. And even Toni, who worked in the health insurance industry, didn't know what to do. Their insurance wouldn't cover it, and Medicaid, which is supposed to provide health care for adopted children, would not help the Hoy family. In the meantime, they lived through a vicious cycle of violence and short-term hospitalization. But there was a final, horrible option.
We decided not to pick him up from the hospital and to let DCFS retake custody of him. It's apparently called the psychiatric lockout or involuntary relinquishment, which is a nice way of saying you have to trade custody for treatment.
After turning him over to the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, the Hoys couldn't locate Daniel for almost a month. When they finally learned of his placement, they fought for treatment in a center more suited to his condition. In a long legal battle, Toni sued the state of Illinois for Medicaid coverage and won a settlement.
Insurance companies, up until Affordable Care Act, had the ability to say, no, we're not going to fund it. They could fund whatever they wanted to. And Medicaid in Illinois has been illegally denying it from the beginning.
With funds for treatment in place, the Hoys went to court and regained custody of Daniel, 2.5 years after turning him over to DCFS.
In 2012, the Family Defense Center, which is a pretty big law firm in Chicago, they gave me the very first ever Parent Advocate Award.
Toni has used her health insurance expertise to help families in similar situations. She wrote about her experience in a book called Second Time Foster Child and hopes that her message can help families and fix what she calls a broken system.
The child welfare agencies and the juvenile courts are set up for neglectful and abusive parents. This is a medical issue. It should remain a medical issue. It should be funded through the medical and the clinical serving systems. There's a stigma against mental illness, and so they don't fund it well enough, and they don't fund it in the right systems, and they don't fund it with the right support.
At age 18, Daniel finished inpatient treatment. Now 23, he has a full-time job and lives in an apartment with his girlfriend and 2-year-old daughter, Sophia. He's just down the street from his parents, so he visits often, and the scars of the Hoy family's traumatic past are beginning to heal.
I think I'm just right where I want to be at this point in my life. Nothing's perfect. I still, have to deal with, some of my problems every day, but just try not to look back at it too much. Just kind of live in the here and now.
He said, Mom, Dad, I don't know what I'd do without you guys. Dealing with all this grown-up stuff is really hard. I don't understand it, and I don't know what I'd do without you. So, yeah, it's good. It's good.
Side Effects Public Media is a reporting collaborative led by WFYI in Indianapolis. Our partnership includes KBIA in Columbia, Missouri, St. Louis Public Radio, Illinois Public Media, WOSU in Columbus, Ohio, and WNIN in Evansville, Indiana.